Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, my name is Nicole McInnes, aka the Groovy Writer, and I'm coming to you from the road in northern Arizona. I recently got news from a former student of a book deal with one of the big New York publishers, and I was so excited for this student. It's a wonderful feeling. It can be a life-changing experience, a great learning experience, and it's one of the best things for me to learn about as a teacher and as a fellow writer. I just love that kind of news. And right about at the same time, I read an article in a fairly prestigious publication from another student who had written about an experience they had many years ago, and it was just made my heart go pitter-pat. It just made me really happy. And it also made me remember something that I experienced as a younger writer on not a really regular basis, but it definitely happened, and it was something that I feel like it's hard to talk about when you're in the experience, and yet it's a reality for so many writers. I think it's so relatable for so many writers, particularly those writers who want to have their work published. Whether it's a novel they are trying to get published with one of the big publishers, or whether it's a short story or a memoir piece, whatever it might be, a poetry chapbook, or they're trying to get an agent. Whatever it might be, there is this issue that sometimes crops up, the little green monster that is creative jealousy. Let me tell you a story about my own run-in with this little green beastie. When I had graduated from graduate school back in the 90s and was actively writing, actively trying to find an agent, actively trying to get my work published, I got word of an author I had known in graduate school who got the first big book deal with a major publisher. Now, I at that time had gotten married. I was pregnant with my first child, and so I was while I was still writing and still actively trying to find representation, I was also on a different life trajectory. I was not writing full time. I was teaching. I was preparing to start a new young family, and so writing was a little bit sidelined, even though I was still doing it. So when I heard this news of my friend who had gotten this book deal, I was sort of assaulted by a whole bunch of different emotions at once. I was in awe, for one thing, because I had this sense of, wow, it's actually possible. This is something that has actually happened to someone I know. This is amazing. And I was happy for that person, and at the same time, I can't lie, I felt a sense of, wow, why that person and not me? And okay, now it's never going to happen to me. And all of those really kind of grungy, uncomfortable, not good feelings. And that's creative jealousy. And then it's very easy to get hard on ourselves. Like, what kind of a person am I that I'm not purely excited for this person, and I'm not just, jumping for joy, and that I shouldn't even be thinking about myself in this scenario? Well, I'm here to tell you, if you're currently experiencing that, or you ever have experienced that, first of all, it is my firm belief that does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person, and it makes you someone who cares about this pursuit, this creative pursuit of writing and trying to get that writing published. It can feel very competitive. It can feel like when we are querying, when we are trying to send out a story to a bunch of publications, that we are competing against all the other writers out there. And from there, it's not hard to get to a place where we start to almost see other writers in some way, maybe not overtly, but in some way, as almost like the creative enemy. They're our competition. We need to beat them out so we can get that agent, so we can get that acceptance letter from the magazine, so we can get that offer from the publisher. And while it's true that there are so many writers at any given time trying to achieve these things, trying to clear these hurdles. Other writers are not the enemy. And if anything, what I have really come to learn is when another writer achieves the kind of success that we so dearly want for ourselves, you can flip in a way that energy of jealousy, you can kind of flip it into that friend of mine or that acquaintance or that other writer who's writing in my genre or in my category. That person has just shown that it can be done. And if that person can do it, I can do it. My path is not going to look the same as theirs. My path is going to look different. It's going to be unique. It's going to be my own path. But when another person achieves something that we want, first of all, I would say acknowledge, ooh, that kind of stings because I want that and they got it, and now I need to be happy for them while I'm also feeling sort of sad for me, because it's one more reminder that I'm not yet, emphasis on the word yet, where I want to be. I haven't yet cleared that hurdle, and honestly, I don't know if I ever will. And that sort of uncertainty is just built into, I think, just about any creative endeavor. I'm sure this is rampant in the art world, the visual art world. I'm sure it's rampant in the music world. I've never been a part of those worlds in any major way, so I don't know. But I do know for sure for writers, it can be a very, very uncomfortable thing. So there can be this tendency to want to shove it away. I don't feel that way. No, I'm totally happy. I'm really happy for them. I have no problem with this. No, yay, let's go celebrate. Let's pop champagne. And there could be that tendency to just not examine it at all. What I would say, based on my own experiences of trying a few different tactics when I've felt that jealousy, because let me tell you, it doesn't just end necessarily with the first time you hear someone's getting published. It can hear, oh, you heard someone reach bestseller status, or someone sold X number of books, or someone got interviewed by this huge outlet. It can happen again and again. So I encourage you, if you feel this sense of artistic jealousy, and then on top of it, you feel bad about yourself as a person for feeling that artistic jealousy, I would say don't feel bad. Acknowledge it, drag it out into the sunlight, investigate it, look at it, learn from it. What is this? Why do I feel this way? Do I feel this way because I think it's never going to happen for me? Do I feel this sense of they're better than me and therefore I'm not good and my writing isn't strong enough? And wherever that road goes for you, I would say look into it, study it, and don't be afraid of it. And maybe think about, okay, the next time this happens, maybe visualize, okay, I'm going to visualize this image where this person that I'm currently jealous of, the next news I hear is that they're now on all the bestseller lists and they're getting all the interviews, and then their book is going to be made into a movie, all of which I have experienced with other writers, right? When you hear news of like, oh, their book's going to be a miniseries or it's going to be a movie, it's sort of like, again, that sense of, whoa, that's huge. And then there can kind of be that followed by that sense of envy. I would really encourage you to learn from it. Think about how you want to be the next time that happens. And then also understand, this is definitely my experience, but I think this is somewhat universal. The longer you're in this, the more times you hear about other writers' great news, excuse me, and you survive it. You survive hearing that, and you go on and you keep pushing and you keep working on your own craft so that you can have your own great news. The longer you do that, the more and more I think it all becomes woven in together to the path, the writer's path. When I hear great news like I heard from my former student yesterday, I just felt pure joy and pure excitement and a little bit of trepidation, because the path of publication can also be a little dicey at times, and it actually does bring new challenges. I know it can seem like it's just all roses and life is great from there, but it actually can bring some new challenges too. So I always, cross my fingers a little bit for writers who are just setting out on that path. But mostly I just felt, pure excitement, pure joy. And then reading a student's piece in the magazine, same feeling, just this is awesome. Keep going. Whatever happens, keep going. That's sort of what I think toward those people when I hear about those successes now. So that's a big turnaround for me. But again, it's universal. I have recently been rewatching the series Mad Men, which in my view, despite the fact that it features questionably moral at best characters doing some really sometimes terrible things, the writing, the direction, the filming of it, the costumes, everything about that series I think is it's just a masterpiece. I think I've been recently rewatching it, and I was reminded, and I rewatched and had sort of forgotten about one of the first episodes when one of the men in the ad agency, I think this is in the late 1950s, maybe early 1960s, I think it's the late 50s though, he gets a story published in The Atlantic, which is an actual magazine, right? I think they were calling it in the show The Atlantic Monthly. We kind of know it these days as The Atlantic. But Ken Cosgrove got a short story published in The Atlantic, and he sort of comes to work and has some copies of the magazine, and he's sharing the news, and people are just awestruck. Most of them didn't even know he was a writer, and there was sort of this shock. And then you would see that the other people in the ad agency, most or all of whom were not even writers, some of them got this creative jealousy, and it really got under their skin. So I think that is a thing. We see others' success, and there can really be a mixture of emotions. So don't be hard on yourself if you're feeling that, but also don't just give into it. Look into it and accept that it's part of the process, and it really does get easier. And frankly, I think the more writers you know as time goes on who are being published, who are out there doing the thing, they're getting agents, they're getting book deals, they're getting stories sold to magazines, that's a good sign that you are more and more surrounding yourself with the type of people who are doing the thing that you want to do. So embrace that, be a part of that world. And it's okay to share your not so great experiences as well. There's this real temptation on social media, for example, to share our great news and share our book deals, and that can be a fun moment, and it can be really just sort of like having a glass of champagne after some great event. It can be wonderful, but that's not the meat and the potatoes of the process. The meat and the potatoes is showing up, writing, submitting your stuff, building your platform, doing what you need to do, and when the good stuff comes, celebrate that, because it's not an everyday thing. It can be sometimes pretty rare, but when it happens, and it's great, whether it's happening to you or to someone else. So be kind to yourself and keep writing, keep doing your thing, and don't let discouragement stop you. That is my message for this day, and I will see you all very soon.